It's always a tricky gamble for a video game reviewer to admit that they didn't get something, that some important element of a game flew over their head and left them floundering without explanation or guidance. Because that will go one of two ways. Either the game objectively made something hard to understand and the viewers will nod along and say, yes, I too had trouble with that, thank you for putting it into words, the community is stronger for your articulacy. Or the considerably likelier result is that the comments will be full of people going, God, couldn't you even figure that out? I did on my first go, what a thickie you are. And there you languish atop a gibbet of mockery, alongside that one Cuphead player who couldn't figure out how to dash. It can be very frustrating to get stuck unable to figure out how to progress in a game, especially when you're on a deadline. It's even more annoying as a reviewer when you're playing a pre-release copy, and there aren't going to be any walkthroughs or discussions online to help you out. You're stuck with just your own dumb ass. I got a review code for Breath of the Wild very early, and I'm pretty sure I became one of the first people in the world to find all of the hidden photo locations without help, but I'm too modest to go on about that. A lot of the time it turns out that being stressed about deadlines and in the depths of a marathon play session can be a pretty ideal environment for brain farts. More often than not I get stuck because I missed something, and if I stop, take a nap, eat a granola bar, the solution will magically become obvious when I return. I'd ask you to have a little sympathy for the hard-working reviewers who can only get so competent at a game they have limited time to play, but I know professional video game critics can attract resentment from people who have to get real jobs. Furthermore, complaining that you didn't get something invites the get good response. It's supposed to be hard to understand. You're supposed to use your brain and experiment and figure things out. That's part of the intended experience. Complaining that the answer wasn't immediately obvious is like complaining that the newspaper didn't print the crossword with the answers already filled in. I can sympathise with that point of view. Lord knows I hate feeling patronised by a game that handholds too much. So I'm hesitant to say there was something in a game I had trouble understanding, at least until I can compare notes with other players who had similar experiences, as much as that might deprive me of the cachet of being the first to point it out. So imagine my joy, listeners, when on the very day I had to start writing my Mina the Hollower review, Marty Sleever rolled up to the Second Wind Monday Zoom meeting complaining that he couldn't figure out how to get to the last generator, because I'd had exactly the same problem, and complaining about it was now fair game. This is a case of an aspect of a game being hard to understand that absolutely isn't intended to be hard to understand, and where in a well-designed game the mechanics and environment would be set up to point you towards a solution, in this case you're unintentionally pointed away from it, and that's just not fair. To go back to a previous simile, that's like the crossword got mistakenly printed with the clues for a completely different crossword. The solution to finding the sixth generator in the Astral Orrery lies in the game's fast travel system, which is why I say this almost certainly wasn't intended to be hard to figure out. There are magic mirrors scattered all over the map, and if you walk into the mirrors you can access an astral realm that connects all the mirrors in the game. But the sticking point is the whole walk into the mirror thing. I was 5 generators deep before I even discovered there was a fast travel system, because you have to hold up into the mirror for a few seconds to walk into it, and that's not intuitive. My usual instinct if I walk into a wall and am immediately blocked is to stop trying to walk into it. Why on earth would I expect something different to happen if I keep holding forwards? Especially in such a huge and sprawling game as Mina the Hollower, where there are always other places to check and other things to investigate if I'm looking for a solution, and hundreds of things I could try before my brain goes to try them all again, but harder. Mina the Hollower sets out to be based on intuition, spelling out very little and leaving you to deduce its mechanics. So when you walk into the room with the big mirror in the centre of town, you see an NPC pass into the mirror, and that's the clue that you're able to do that as well. But it's blink and you miss it, and all I saw was someone pause in front of a mirror, then walk into it. I didn't know they were pushing forward the whole time. I couldn't see their controller. The final sticking point is that if you press the action button while standing in front of the mirror, we go to a different screen, showing an enormous close-up of Mina's face, and pressing buttons causes Mina to cycle through a selection of funny facial expressions. And this is what I was talking about when I referred to directly pointing away from the solution, because I intuited fairly quickly that there was something important about the mirrors, and I assumed it was something to do with the Make Funny Faces screen. God help me, I thought that making the right sequence of funny faces might activate some unfathomable mechanism or other. Why, when pressing the button on the mirror creates instant feedback, would we assume that the solution was to back out of the funny face making screen and interact with the mirror in a different way that does not immediately yield feedback? It's such a bad design choice and would be so easily fixed, it makes me paranoid that it will be fixed in a patch by the time this video goes out, and you're all now wondering what the hell I'm blithering on about. You figured it out easily from the enormous neon signs pointing at every mirror reading "Keep walking into this, dumb twat." If it were me, I'd change it so pressing the button makes Mina walk into the mirror and ditch the whole funny face making screen altogether. I had no idea what the point of that even was, unless we were supposed to take screenshots and post them as hilarious reaction images under other people's social media posts. But happily, there's another equivalent example of a massive roadblock in a game that's very unintuitive to figure out and probably wasn't intended to be, that is not so easily wiped from historical memory. I am thinking, of course, of, drumroll please, the rolling drum thing from Sonic 3. The red and white spinning cylindrical platform you need to get past in the Carnival Night Zone. Yeah, I see a lot of vigorously nodding heads in the audience right now. In Carnival Night Zone, Sonic 3's slightly inferior inferior answer to Sonic 2's Casino Night Zone, there is a room whose only exit is a gap in the floor blocked by a spinning cylindrical platform. Uncharacteristically for Retro Sonic with its multiple path levels, this room has to be navigated to proceed in the game. If you jump onto the cylinder, it sinks into the ground before bouncing back up again and potentially letting you jump high off of it. And this is another case of the clues blatantly pointing away from the solution, because most of us would, and indeed did, conclude that this worked like a standard video game trampoline situation, where you jump higher and higher each time you come down from a greater height, albeit reversed, with the cylinder going lower and lower with each bounce until there's enough of a gap to escape into the room below. But this is the wrong approach. There is no way to make the cylinder go low enough by this method. What you're supposed to do is alternate pressing up and down on the D-pad, at which point the cylinder will start going up and down, thanks to Sonic's latent telekinetic abilities, presumably. And this is not the least bit intuitive. You could argue that the players are meant to discover this by experimenting with every button at their disposal, but the point is, many players don't, because the cylinder bouncing when we jump on it gives us misleading positive feedback. We tend to assume we just haven't quite dropped on it from high enough yet. Nothing overtly signals that we're barking up the wrong tree. I highlight these two examples to convey the attached important lessons to the game designers of the world. Leaving the player to figure out a mechanic instead of painstakingly walking them through it is fine in theory, preferable even. Give us subtle hints, or give us no hints at all, but don't ever give us incorrect hints, whether intentionally or not, because that's not fair. It's like a murder mystery story where the killer turned out to be someone the author forgot to mention, or that you can only find out by reading the book in reverse, and half the pages are covered in Marmite.